we are jumping right into the middle of the project. Let me get you caught up. So first I resawed some maple into really thin boards. These are about 0.06 inches or 1.5 millimeters. I took 3 of those and soaked them overnight, and then I bent them around this form. I learned on the first one that I needed to put some kind of strip on the end, or else the ratchet straps would split it, like this. So the form, I turned this part on the lathe. It's got a taper to it, and then I cut it in half on the bandsaw, so I ended up with 2 of them. And I added these straight parts because I want a part that is straight on the end and then curves. So the first round bending this around here, I did not have any glue. I just wanted to pre-bend the wood so it'd be easier to work with when I was gluing it. So I left that sitting on here for about 4 or 5 days. Then I took the straps off and then I let it dry for another couple of weeks. I don't have a moisture meter that will work on something that thin, but I do have a ruler, and I know that wood expands when it gets wet. So when it came out of the water, it was a 1/2 inch wider than it started. And I know when it got back to its original measurement that it was close to the same moisture content. So once it was dry enough, I bent it around again, this time with epoxy. So I've ended up with 8 of these. I need 7, so I have 1 spare. I know these parts are actually not going to work for my final piece because there's 2 issues. One, there was some staining. I'm not exactly sure what was going on there, but when it came out of the water, it had little spots and stuff. So I was able to hide most of it, but that's one issue. But the bigger issue is there's gaps all over the place on these, especially on the bottom. So I'm going to do something else, probably steam bending one solid piece rather than a bent lamination. But they're good enough that I can figure out what else isn't going to work. So these are going to wrap around this, like this. I've got to do some trimming to make this work, and they're going to overlap. And so the big question is, how in the world am I going to clamp these on here? Like, I can do the first one and the second one, but eventually they're going to be in the way of each other. So I don't know how that's going to happen. We're going to find out. And I'm planning to do a lot of piercing on here. So there's going to be like a pattern to this, and the patterns will overlap. And I think that's going to be cool. So we'll find out. I need to trim the end, and it should be somewhere about there. And the scroll saw seems like the least annoying and dangerous way to cut that. I need to bevel the other end so that it's parallel to the adjacent face. And I could try and figure out some way of holding that so I could use a hand plane to do that, or I could just take it to my giant belt sander and do it in about 10 seconds. What began as a two-dimensional drawing is now a three-dimensional object, and it looks cool from the direction that I drew it in, but from the side, it still needs some work. It was always my intention to trim this back so that it came down basically to nothing, but I always try to delay implementing something like that because you can't put it back if you change your mind. So I want to see it before I cut it. I need your help for 2 minutes. I designed this really cool Lego model of a letterpress. It works. Well, you can't print with it, but it goes through all the right motions. And it's up on Lego Ideas right now. I need to get 10,000 people to go there and click the support button, and then Lego will consider making it a set. So there'll be links down below, or you can just go into your browser and type ideas.lego.com, and then type in letterpress in the search box, and this is the only thing that's going to come up. You do have to have an account, which is why I'm saying 2 minutes. But yeah, if you just want to say thank you for uploading this video, here's a really easy way you can do that. And if you really want to see this become a set, you got to do more than support it. You're going to have to share the project with people like-minded, because I don't have the reach to get 10,000 people on my own. So you're going to have to help. All right? Thank you. Now it's time to start on the piercing, and the curvature of the parts makes everything a challenge. Even just to drill the holes, I had to come up with a way of backing it up to prevent too much blowout on the back. I made this auxiliary vise clamp thing to hold it while I work on it. The main thing was to get it elevated enough so that I had clearance over the workbench. The block that the bolt pushes down on has a concave end, and this block can be switched for a convex one when I have to flip the piece over. It worked, but I really should have made it with a much deeper throat. I kept having the workpiece break whenever I tried to cut really any distance at all away from the support if it was across the grain. I learned this really early on, and you would think with 7 of these to make, I would just take the 20 minutes to make another one that has a deeper throat. But no, I just kept stubbornly making the same mistake over and over and over again. Here you can see one that broke, but only in the top layer of the lamination. So this is one of the spots where there was a bad glue joint. It ended up that I cut most of those areas off, and I had pretty good success repairing the rest. So now we come to the gluing of the arms onto the core that I was so worried about, that ended up not being that big of a deal after all. I needed a curved caul to transfer clamp pressure from the ends into the middle. And once I worked my way around the first 5 where there was no interference, I found that I had plenty of room to put a small C-clamp at the top, and I had cut away enough material at the bottom that there was no interference there. Then I could shape the top rim. There's a transition here from the organic shapes of the arms to the geometric shape of the core. So I tried to make it be a little bit freeform, but nothing crazy, and close to symmetrical as it went down. I had pre-finished the arms before gluing them on, so I only needed to finish the inside, and on the outside all of the exposed parts to the core that were a little fun to reach. I'm really happy with how this turned out, especially since I was convinced that I wasn't going to end up with a finished product here. It has issues. There's lots of little things distributed equally all over it that it's not quite up to my standards, but it doesn't belong in the fire either. So yeah, I think it's salvaged. Yeah, I really like the form, and I see a lot of potential for different ways to go, both in how to make it. I want to try steam bending the arms. I think I could do it with a vacuum bag instead of the straps. I think I figured out how to do that. Maybe not. I think having written it off as a prototype and gave me permission to, just like, I'm always thinking about how am I going to make money off of this thing, and so it's got to turn out perfect. And when you're in that mode of thinking, it's hard to try new things. So giving yourself permission to, like, this isn't going to work out. We'll just do it and learn stuff. That's nice. It's been a long time since I've done something weird, and here it is in all its weirdness. I like it.